He was parked there all night. And the Muslim dude who walked down to me,
Scoping.
that's the dude who killed Big.
Damn.
We don't know who he's shooting at. I'm telling Kenny that.
Biggie's murder has haunted the world for decades, but now Gene Deal finally exposes the killers, and the truth is brutally shocking. Every detail he reveals shatters the myths, showing a night of calculated danger, betrayal, and fatal mistakes. This is a raw, emotional unraveling of the events that changed hip-hop forever.
Big driver stayed at the light. The dude pulled out the parking space. It was no drive-by, brother.
Biggie's murder has always been wrapped in chaos, rumors, and assumptions. For decades, everyone assumed it was a random drive-by. But Gene Deal, who was right there that night, tells a story that flips everything we thought we knew. The shooter wasn't rushing past, didn't spray bullets from a moving car. No, the shooter was parked. All night, waiting. Every movement outside that car, every moment on that block, was part of a setup that most people never understood. Before a single shot was fired, Gene noticed a man dressed like a Muslim approaching Puff's car. There was a tension in the air that didn't match the crowd, didn't match the chaos. He stopped, looked Gene in the eyes, didn't speak a word, and walked away. That one silent glance held the weight of a plan already in motion.
The president of Death Row East wasn't going to be Tupac. The president was going to be Eric B.
That makes sense.
And Craig Mack was going to be their first artist.
Wow.
You understand?
Wow, that would have been interesting to see that.
So he was going to leave Bad Boy to go to Death Row East?
He was already left Bad Boy.
Before all of that, there was a chance to prevent the storm entirely. Death Row East was not just a name. Suge Knight was building it as a real label, with Eric B. ready to step in as president, not Tupac. Craig Mack was slated to be their first artist. This was serious. The East Coast and West Coast tensions weren't just chatter, they were spilling into boardrooms, studios, and parties. Suge's team wanted a sit-down, a chance to squash the beef before it became blood. Puff had the power to send someone, anyone, to that table. But he didn't. He refused. He worried about owing someone something, about optics, about leverage. That hesitation didn't just stall peace talks, it left the field wide open for what came next.
But prior to that is that Eric Von Zip had called Puff when we were in California. And Suge Knight and all them was in New York, and they wanted to squash the East Coast, West Coast beef shit.
And again, this is before Pac's death.
Before Pac's death.
The tension escalated with a phone call that could have changed everything. Eric Zip called Puff from California trying to broker some common sense. Haitian Jack was involved too, and his position was complicated.
Puff got a call from Haitian Jack.
Yeah, infamous.
You know what I'm saying? Haitian Jack. And Haitian Jack could attest to this. He called Zip back and said, y'all making me look bad because all of them was partying with Suge Knight and the Death Row people at the Mirage and different places and stuff like that. You understand? So Zip was telling him, man, we trying to squash this bullshit and everything like that. Right. Just give me or give me or you send somebody, you understand, the right to speak for you so we can squash this shit. Right. And everything like that.
There were parties at the Mirage, East Coast folks mingling with Death Row, all under the public eye. Puff worried about appearances. He said, in essence, y'all making me look bad. He refused to authorize a sit-down or send a representative. That decision, or indecision, came before Tupac's death. It was a moment that could have shifted the entire narrative of that era, but it didn't. The beef remained unresolved, simmering under the surface, while the stage for tragedy was quietly being set.
Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. You understand? Nothing beats an ambush. You always on point, you always on ready. You understand?
When you out of state, out of lines, kind of on the other side, it's like not so much is under my control. You know? So like going out there, that risk is always gonna be enhanced. It's more exposure when you out of town, right?
Yeah, but still in all, I don't know, man, but I never went out my house not thinking it couldn't happen.
Right.
Even today.
Gene Deal's approach that night was shaped by a lifetime of security experience and law enforcement training. Failure to prepare is preparing to fail, he says. Every move was calculated. Even when the fire department came to shut down the club, he wasn't thinking about leaving calmly or letting the crowd disperse naturally. He moved the cars, distributed weapons, ensured Paul, the head of security, had one, and gave D-Rock, Biggie's man, another. He had one on himself and a backup on his ankle, ready for worst-case scenarios. This wasn't paranoia. It was discipline born of experience. Every precaution mattered, because out there one slip could cost a life. But the rules of that night weren't followed perfectly. Gene gave D-Rock a weapon for protection, but later took it back. Online critics questioned this move, but Gene's reasoning was simple. He didn't know if D-Rock actually had one of his own, and his priority was keeping Biggie safe. Even the smallest gap in security could be fatal. And then there was the unsettling behavior of Puff, distracted with logistics like lining up girls for a pool party the next day, delaying departure. Every small delay, every deviation from protocol amplified the risk.
He said, run 3 lights or run 3 lights or take 3 rights. That's what they said in the class. They also taught you how to interrogate somebody. You understand? They taught you how to do surveillance, and they taught you how to do surveillance so you ain't seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what came to my mind. Can you run the next 3 lights?
And then the 3-light tactic came into play, a method Gene learned from a DEA surveillance class. The principle is simple. Make 3 rights or run 3 lights and you end up back where you started. It's a way to test for followers, gauge threats, and disrupt predictable patterns. That night, Gene instructed the driver to follow this exact strategy. It was meticulous, deliberate, and meant to create a window of safety in an environment that offered none. Yet even with that precision, Biggie's car didn't follow the flow. The driver stopped at the light. The shooter, already positioned, had the advantage. It wasn't a reckless attack, it was executed from a parked position, fully aware of the movements of those inside the car. By the end of the night, the threads of tension, unheeded warnings, and unresolved East-West conflicts converged. The missed opportunities weren't just administrative, they were moments when someone could have stepped in and changed history. Instead, the plan of the shooter went off with deadly precision, leaving Biggie dead and the world shocked, while the decisions made months, weeks, and minutes earlier continued to echo in every detail of that night. Gene Deal didn't just walk into a situation and hope for the best. That was never his style. Years of law enforcement and DEA surveillance training had him seeing threats before they even existed. Most people walk into a club and worry about spilling their drink. Gene? He's calculating exit routes, counting steps, mentally running 3-light scenarios, and figuring out who could hit him from the shadows. Even on dates, he admits, he's scanning. Not creepy scanning, more like, I know danger doesn't care if I'm holding hands or buying tacos. California wasn't New York. Out there, you were more exposed. Different streets, unfamiliar territory, strangers everywhere. And Gene? He never left home assuming he was safe. Not ever.
And the fire department get ready to shut down the building, you know, stuff like that. So when the fire department come, I'm thinking, we're sitting ducks if we go outside and wait for the cars to come to us. You understand? It's a crowd of people run up in the crowd. Pow! What people gonna do? They're gonna scatter.
Everybody.
You understand? Something like that.
Then the fire department shows up, sirens blazing, flashing lights everywhere, and clears the venue. That should have been the cue to relax. For anyone else, sure. But for Gene, it was a red flag the size of the Empire State Building. Waiting outside with the crowd, that's sitting duck territory. He didn't hesitate. He ran the cars downstairs, lining them up for a clean extraction. No chaos, no waiting around for someone else to figure it out. Then he starts handing out weapons. Paul, the head of security, gets one. D-Rock, Biggie's man, gets one. And Gene, he keeps one on his side and another on his ankle for the oh crap last resort scenario. He wasn't paranoid, he was realistic. Every precaution, every detail was about staying alive and keeping the people around him alive too.
I give Big's man, D-Rock, Brooklyn guy, one of my guns. And I say, yo, watch Big. I'll be right back. You understand? I didn't want to leave them naked or nothing like that. You understand? So I say, watch Big. And I know Paul got a gun and they got the other security up there, but I'm telling D-Rock, because that's his man. Watch Big, I'll be right back. I run downstairs, make sure the cars is in front. So as soon as we go out, we go straight to the cars and we can get out of there.
Be out of there.
And that brings us to the gun situation, which naturally gets everyone on the internet talking. Gene gives D-Rock a weapon temporarily just for protection. Later, he takes it back. Cue the Twitter experts and keyboard warriors. Why did he take the gun? Gene's response is simple, practical, and a little funny if you think about it. Didn't D-Rock have his own? Brooklyn pride is serious business. People assume you have your back covered, but assumptions can be deadly. Taking the gun back wasn't distrust, it was common sense. If something happened and D-Rock didn't have a weapon, Gene wasn't leaving Biggie exposed. The internet may debate it, but anyone who's ever been responsible for someone else's safety knows those small decisions can mean the difference between life and death.
So when we get back downstairs, we all get in the car. Come on, let's go. Puff like, yo, hold up. He going around getting girls. Yo, Gene, like he was doing upstairs, remember her for the pool party tomorrow. Remember her from the pool party tomorrow. Remember that from the pool party tomorrow. Just bringing girls to Big and bring girls up to me. I'm like, what? We never did that shit before.
Then there's Puff. And oh man, Puff's behavior that night, let's just say it didn't exactly scream mission first. Puff was lining up girls for a pool party the next day, not joking. Gene is standing there running cars, distributing guns, running mental drills, and Puff's thinking about the weekend guest list. Gene even comments, "We never did that before." Exactly. It was unusual. Distraction at the wrong time can be fatal. And Puff was delaying departure. Minutes ticked by. Protocols that had worked for years, tossed out the window. Gene knew something was off. The vibe wasn't right. He could feel it, and that instinct, honed over years of security work, is what kept him alive that night. It's fascinating to think about how little details can snowball. The fire department clears the club, and to most people, that's a non-event. To Gene, it's a signal. Act. The cars move, the weapons are distributed, ankle gun in place. Puff is distracted, thinking about parties, ignoring protocols, delaying departure. D-Rock has a gun temporarily, but then it's taken back. Every choice, every micro decision is part of a chain. One link fails, and suddenly the whole chain snaps.
Puff said to me, Gene, get in the car. I said, why? He said, Gene, we don't need that. I said, how you gonna tell me how to do my job, man? You know what I'm saying? He said, Gene, if you don't get in this car, you ain't gonna never work for Bad Boy again. I said, I might not never work for Bad Boy anyway. He said, Gene, get in the car.
By the time they were ready to leave the venue, Gene had already calculated every possible threat in his head. The streets, the exits, the people in the crowd, even the timing of the cars. But every little unpredictable factor, the delays, the unusual behavior, the assumptions, made the situation tighter, more dangerous, and more volatile. It wasn't paranoia, it was survival with a twist of humor. He often laughs now when talking about how people judge him online, but that night, none of it was funny. That night, preparation was everything. Gene Deal's approach shows how much goes unseen in security work. It's not just about having a gun or following protocols, it's about reading people, anticipating mistakes, and covering every angle, even when everyone else is distracted by parties, appearances, or assumptions. And while it sounds like an extreme version of over-preparedness, in hindsight, every single detail mattered, and every choice had consequences that none of the outside world could see.
You done shot up they Winnebago and everything. You think ain't nothing gonna happen? Why would you come out there and you don't have nothing but just for the sake of things? Not knowing, not caring. I just gave him my weapon and just said, yo, watch Big. So when I come back, thinking, man, what they gonna do? They gonna get their gun back, especially from a Brooklyn.
Yeah, let me get my piece back, bro.
Especially from a Brooklyn. This is the flag, and this is what, why you got ignorant guys on the internet, why you take the gun back from D-Rock? Well, why D-Rock didn't have his own gun?
That night, as Gene Deal was lining up the cars and scanning the streets, something strange caught his eye. On the otherwise empty side of the museum, a man in a blue and white shirt appeared first, wandering like he had business that didn't exist. But then another figure came into view, a man dressed like a Muslim, walking deliberately toward Puff's car. Gene didn't hesitate. He stepped out, weapon in hand, heart steady, training kicking in. The man looked him dead in the eyes, and then nothing. No greeting, no assalamu alaikum, no word at all. Just that silent, loaded stare, and the man walked away. That pause, that exchange without words, spoke volumes. Gene recalled lessons he'd learned from Farrakhan's son, Mustafa, on humility and awareness, how to read intentions even in silence. And in that moment, he knew something wasn't right.
We're the only one on that side. So this guy just come out the blue in a blue and white shirt. So I keep my eye on him. He walks through. I say something to Paul. That was it. Now, we pull out in the driveway. We in the driveway now. So this guy and the Muslim start coming down. The Muslim guy start coming down.
Then came the three-light tactic, a DEA surveillance trick Gene had drilled into his brain. Puff insisted he get into the car. If you don't get in, Puff said, dead serious, you'll never work for Bad Boy again. Gene climbed in, shifting into professional mode. He told the driver, Kenny, to run 3 lights, not just for speed or randomness, but for testing surveillance. Make 3 rights, end up back where you started. Check for tails, measure timing, and control the environment. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't dramatic, but it was pure instinct over emotion. Every second counted. Meanwhile, Biggie's car had a fatal flaw. It stayed put at the light. Security rule 1, if you move, everyone moves. If you stop, you're exposed. Gene knew this. The shooter wasn't driving by, spraying bullets in chaos. No, he was parked, premeditated, watching every car, every movement. Biggie's driver hesitated. The car sat still. The shooter had the advantage. When the car finally pulled out from its parking space, it was under controlled positioning, like chess pieces set for capture.
So now, Tone, who's behind me, and I'm sideways, he say, somebody got a gun at, pointing at Big them. The car's right there on the corner.
Then came the panic. Tone, one of Gene's men, yelled, somebody pointing a gun at Big. And suddenly the plan collided with human instinct. Kenny, the driver, froze. A few seconds lost. What did you say? Gene shouted. Precious moments disappeared. The car went into park. Doors flew open. Everyone ran, except Big. A crash option, a quick maneuver that could have disrupted the shooter, was ignored. And in those moments, the shooter vanished up the hill like he'd been invisible all along.
We passed the light.
But you said he walked up to Puff first, right?
He walked up to Puff car first. That's when I stepped out and had the hammer and showed him.
Yeah, listen.
You know what I'm saying? The dude looked me dead in the face. God is good again.
Here's the kicker. The shooter Gene confronted earlier, allegedly the same man, parked all night, waiting, patient, unseen. And yet the media painted it as a chaotic drive-by. That narrative stuck because it was simpler, easier to digest. But the reality, calculated, cold, and methodical. Everything that happened was planned, rehearsed, and executed with precision. This wasn't random, it wasn't spontaneous. Looking back, you can't help but ask, could it have been prevented? 100 tiny decisions stacked together led to the tragedy. If Puff had attended that sit-down, if Wolf had been sent in his place, if departure hadn't been delayed, if the car had reacted differently, reversed, crashed, anything to disrupt the shooter, if Gene hadn't reclaimed the gun from D-Rock, Each small moment added weight, and together they tipped the scale toward disaster. And then comes the question everyone wants an answer to: poor judgment or something more? Gene refuses to speculate on Puff's mind, and that's wise. But he's clear on one thing: choices mattered. Decisions shaped the night, shaped the outcome, and shaped the legacy. Was it ego, concern over optics, legacy, or just plain human error? Probably all of it. East Coast, West Coast. Tension was a powder keg, and pride often outweighed safety. That culture, that mentality, was part of the environment where chaos could bloom. Gene's final words on it: simple, pragmatic, chilling. Nothing beats an ambush. Every precaution, every instinct, every split-second decision was about staying alive in a world where danger doesn't knock before entering.